All right, we are live. We are live. Finally, I've waited my whole life for this. Um, yeah, it's Nicky Moneyballs, and I'm here with Quacky T Tommy, and we decided, in our infinite wisdom, to uh, it's not sunny anymore to start a podcast, and so we'd kind of like to just officially welcome you guys. Um, welcome.
Welcome to In the Nick of Tom. Clever name. Who
Which,
came up with that?
if you want an arsenal of dad jokes, Tommy's got you.
I got
But but it was funny because I actually met Tommy, quote unquote. We're older millennials, so we didn't really do much social media. I actually met him online, and I had this grand experiment of I'm going to find a group of handicappers online because I want to basically make a sharp list of handicappers. I'm going to have a list of 10, and when 5 of them are on the same side, I'm going to bet the game. I'm gonna write a script. I'm gonna automate it. I'm not gonna make any friends. And I'm gonna be a cold-hearted bettor.
you. How'd that work out
And
for
well, now I'm sending you a Christmas card, probably. No,
you? Yeah, no.
but yeah, no, it didn't work out. I mean, that is generally still the idea, and I still run a lot of my bets like that algorithmically and as what people would call machine learning, which is essentially or just really just data analysis. Right, I'm the Facebook of sports betting. Um, but no, I met you, and we decided, hey, here's a podcast, and I think the same is for you, right?
Yeah, for sure. We definitely, when I started on TikTok, and I started on TikTok for about a month, and then joined Twitter. I've only been doing the social media, sports capping for 2 months now. I really wasn't sure what to expect at all. I wasn't sure if anyone was even going to watch, and I thought I could just delete it if it was, if it ended up flopping. But it's been a great experience. The picks have been pretty good too, and I've met a lot of people. It's been so much fun. And then when I first found Nick, I definitely noticed, like me, he had a flair for the theatrics. So we made very fast friends, and we've been collaborating on a Discord as well, and that's really starting to gain some traction. We've got about 100 people now on our Discord, and yeah, I noticed that he's got a background in acting like me. So we decided to put this podcast together, and one thing especially that piqued my interest with Nick and his area of expertise was his knowledge of algorithms. So Nick, tell us a little bit about what the algorithms, what they are really for some of those for those who may not know, and go into a little bit of detail if you can on how you use them and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I literally opened up a Cracker Jack box one day. No, so essentially, algorithm betting, it is a fancy marketing term. It is an algorithm, but essentially, how I see it, um, I was an ex-poker player for 5 years. Let's throw that out there. I X's and mean like I paid taxes. Like I was a winner. A lot of people, you'll tell them you're a poker player, and then 5 minutes into the story, they're like, oh, like you really did play poker. But yeah, when I was a poker player, I learned really, and I think this is the case today, and this is my opinion, but I do think is there's two types of bettors. There's your bettors, they're gonna, they're gonna cap 5, maybe even 10 games a day. Their edges are really small, and they're looking for market inefficiencies. Hey, blind unders in the NBA playoffs are 6% ROI. Great, let's hammer them. Boom. Home underdogs in the CFL, Canadian Football League. Boom, 4% ROI. Let's hammer it. And you're doing a lot of line shopping, and it's very much almost like it's a very much a market driven, data driven analysis of sports betting.
Right, and
And
I
then
think if I can chime in real quick, I think one
yeah,
thing I've noticed since I've been collaborating with you, I noticed it seems like they're with the algorithms and that sort of thing that there's an edge in maybe some sports that aren't as popular as far as betting goes. At least to me, I felt like the CFL. I never looked at a CFL game, or I was never a big soccer fan. EPL or WNBA. Those aren't really the sports that you hear people like betting heavily on. So, do you think that there's an edge there as well?
I mean, that's probably the biggest edge. I mean, if you're $100 better, you can blow up a bankroll a lot easier because the books will cap a lot of these games at $100, but I know a syndicate. I don't want to say I know them, and they wouldn't even call themselves a syndicate, but it's a sexy term. But they literally cap women's volleyball and women's college basketball,
Hmm.
and they move 10 to 20K a game. But the idea is that there are bigger edges in these niche markets. Yeah, WNBA, CFL, and that's where you can get a bigger edge because the books don't spend as much time.
Right.
And
Because
one thing the book,
they're not as
yeah,
popular as bets, right?
not as popular. Yeah, and you know what the book will do? They'll just say, "Hey, boys, let's cap it at 100." I think you worked at a book for a couple years. I don't know if we want to get into that.
I sure
Yeah,
did. I did run a book for a couple of years.
let's
Small.
table that. But you'll just cap it at 100. You'll just be like,
Right.
we don't want to deal with this action.
Yep.
So a lot of the algorithms circling back, yeah, some of them are more complex. There are based on line movements. I have data that says, okay, if a line moves out of Pinnacle, right, that's sharp action steam. Or if a line is moving out of a certain book in Colorado, now that we have localized, legalized sports betting here in the States, that's
Hmm.
going to be data driven algorithmic betting. And then there's the other side of handicapping, which is just as legitimate, which is I'm going to know everything about NFL, and I'm
Hmm.
going to look at the matchups. I'm going to look at the futures. And I think this is kind of a good segue too. It's just these types of people are going to be betting once a day, maybe at the most, a couple
Hmm.
bets a week. And that's where I found you. And I saw you making one play a day, and it was well thought out. And I go, all right, this guy, I like you're doing, and you still do it,
Yeah.
one play a day.
Well,
Yeah.
part of why I was doing one play a day is because honestly, I think baseball is probably the sport that I'm worst at picking. But so far, it's been I've been doing all right. So
Oh,
when
I've been hitting
NFL,
six. You're up 40 units. You're up 65%. We're
I
almost
am
at a.
I am over 60% over I think 60 some games, but
Yeah,
maybe it's better to be lucky than good. I don't know. But
it's
once
definitely
once football
so.
season rolls around, I will do more than one pick. But just because I didn't think that I would be that good at baseball, I thought, well, if I narrow it down to one, but
Dude,
it's
I love it. That is like fading yourself. And you've all done that. We've all faded ourselves before. You've hedged your bet. But yeah, then there's the other side. Like I said, somebody that really gets into the nitty gritty. I knew that was you. And honestly, I was looking for someone, no joke, to outsource my bets in tennis and quite honestly, NFL football. It's not my strongest sport. I think there's when the game they're switching games this year. We're going to a 17 game season. I think a lot of people are in a 16 game mindset on these futures bets, these team totals. I guess we're transitioning right into it. And that's something I wanted to do first. Yeah, it locks up your money for 3 or 4 months, but I don't mind that because it actually helps me personally bet my bankroll knowing that there's 5% of it locked up in a plus EV situation. But yeah, that's kind of how I see the two sports betting groups. None is either better than the other. And if you can combine the two, if I could give somebody here are the algorithm plays of the day, and then I could cross check it with sharp cappers, that's kind of where we're at. But yeah, going back to football, let's just go. I think. What do you think about football this year with the 17 game
yeah.
season? Is
Well,
like,
yeah,
you
well,
know,
this is going to be the second year that they do the 17 game. But I think you're right. You know, I think maybe people are still in that 16 game mindset. Last year was at least me personally, I thought it was a little bit. I'm not sure how to explain it exactly, but it was a little bit different. Usually, games in the past that I've kind of had felt like I've had a good read on that come through last year, and I wonder if it was maybe because of all the COVID things that were going
yeah,
on.
I kind of mentally discounted it because of the COVID. You
Mhm.
are right. It is the second year, but I mean, home crowds are back. But yeah,
Well, it was. I wonder, you know, how much all the COVID protocol, you know, players not able to play and practice and that sort of thing. I wonder how much that threw a monkey into the wrench of things and disrupted, you know, the flow week to week in the NFL season. I think this year is going to be pretty interesting. You know, I doesn't seem like we're going to have those same sorts of interruptions as far as COVID goes, but I guess who knows though with the way things have been. But um, But yeah, and it's interesting, kind of to piggyback.
NFL is your sport, right? Would you say NFL is your sport?
I would say NFL is definitely my best sport as far as picking, but I mean everybody on that does handicapping says that too. I feel like, but yeah, I mean that's definitely the sport over the years that I've had the most success with. But yeah, last year was a little different. I mean, I still had success with it, but I noticed like certain games that I thought were pretty much locks. I mean nothing's a lock, but um, it was I don't know how else to explain it. It was definitely a unique year. We'll put it that way. We'll put it that way. But I do think since we're talking about futures and kind of piggybacking on what you said you like to have your money tied up. You don't mind having your money tied up, rather. I mean, I feel like with what you're doing, sort of with the algorithms and the systems and everything, as opposed to maybe people who are just throwing bets out there, you're kind of looking at it as more of that's like a long term investment. And I think that's something that's beneficial, longer term, probably.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be rolling my Roth 401k into this new future. No, I do, I think I'm on a quest too to try to convince people. I mean, we don't have to sell people that are in the sports betting world that this can be an investment, this can be a return. But I do have it as my dharma
We
one
are not
day to.
financial advisors, by the way. Just
Yeah, we are. Yeah, no. But yeah, I mean, I do. If you do, I mean, I guess that's a good way of putting it. Yeah, as an investment. And I personally, like I said, I just like it's a totally a psychological crutch, you could even say. But I've seen some of these line movements. They're crazy. I mean, the funny thing about the betting public. Where's the public at? Where's the public
Mhm.
at? Sometimes the public is actually
Guilty,
right.
by the way.
What's that?
I said guilty, by the way.
Guilty, yeah. No, I am too. I mean, no, like generally you can fade the public for almost a break-even EV in a lot of spots, but the public loves the Jets. They're all over the Jets. They're on the Jets over. And is that because it's a Cincinnati Bengals effect? I think there's all these interesting the line movements have been crazy, suspensions, and it's just moving around. There's just been a lot of action in the futures, and I'm curious to know what do you think? Like, what's your best? Because
Yeah,
I have some spots I think I want to go at, but I
yeah.
don't know.
Well, before I go into that, explain. You mentioned the Cincinnati Bengals effect. So if you could explain what that is exactly to those who might know, and also, I mean, the Jets. That's a team that I've seen, and much to my surprise, actually, I've seen a lot of people on the Jets season total season win over this year, which I was kind of surprised to see. I need to do some more investigating into that myself. But if you could explain what you mean by the Cincinnati Bengals effect there.
Um, if you, yeah, it's this. I don't think anyone saw the Bengals in the Super Bowl, as in the middle. Did you?
Well, I,
In
no,
the
I
middle of
didn't.
the season?
Well, I didn't take him, but I have a good buddy who is he's from Cincinnati, and he's an all Cincinnati fan. And I was telling them because when they played the Packers last year, and the Packers actually won that game in overtime. I'm a lifelong Packers fan here. But I was texting him that day. I was
Take
like,
a moment.
yeah, I was like, Bengals are. It's like Bengals are going to win this game. I really thought they would beat Green Bay, and I remember I kept telling him all year. I was like, this team has so many good pieces. So I wouldn't say. I mean, I wasn't confident in them enough to. I didn't put any sort of futures play. Much. Much to my chagrin, mid-season. I wish I had, but I had been telling him all year. I was like, I like where this team is headed. So maybe not sure that they were going to go to the Super Bowl, but I definitely thought, hey, the future is bright for them, and I still feel that way.
Okay, so I I guess the Bengals effect to me, and I think a lot of people would know this. It's just this idea, and I think social media has played a huge role in this. um, is this idea that I'm gonna go viral, or I'm gonna get this guy hit it with the Blues. Remember, he put
Oh,
like
right. Yeah.
$1,000 down on no, he put $400 down on the St. Louis Blues, and they were in last place. And then you have the Bengals doing it the next year or 2 years later.
Mm,
It's just this idea that like the books are wrong, and I'm gonna come up on them, and
mm,
not only gonna make a ton of money, I'm gonna get famous. And it's this
right.
amplified effect. I think TikTok's part of it. Instagram's been around, but I think it's just social media meets legalization meets a post-COVID world where you get like a kind of utopian if you're the girlfriend dystopian future of like guys making crazy freaking bets. I mean,
Hmm.
we have an Orioles futures bet. I think that's actually pretty good.
Hmm.
Um, but it's, it's 100 to 1. But that aside, I think it's the sense. So there's just this idea that, hey, I got a shot and I'm gonna cut, and the books are wrong. And that's actually why I made mine, and that's where Moneyball, the whole thing of Moneyball is like this idea of a Moneyball moment. Hey, like where is it that where are teams doing things differently, or where can they do things differently to more optimize play?
Yeah.
Um, Billy Bean did it in 2002 with the A's. He said, "Look, we're not going to buy players, we're going to buy runs." That's machine learning in like a very simplified
Hmm.
aspect of it. You solve the problem from behind. So back to the Cincinnati Bengals, I think people want to get one up on the books. They want a story. We live in it's a crazy world, and
Right.
people want to be part of that story. And I think that's the Bengals effect. I think it's moving around futures, and I want to be part of a story too, but I want to make a couple of bucks.
Right. No, for sure. Everyone wants to hold the winning ticket that no one ever thought would come through, and that's
Exactly.
so yeah, for sure. And I like the way you describe. They want to gain maybe some sense of celebrity with social media too. That I definitely think that's has an
That's the
impact on it
thing.
as well.
Yeah, I think that's part of like people are like, well, why is the labor market so screwed up? It's like, well, why is the betting market so screwed up? And why are they playing 6 to 5 on blackjack and no one's complaining about it? I am actually I can't. Anyway. So yeah, I think futures wise, maybe the Bengals is something to look at. But I want to know, no, we're gonna keep this grounded. I want to know, who is Tommy going for on his mortgage? All in.
Well, I don't really bet that much, especially on
No, I
futures.
know.
But there's a there's a couple here that this year that I really like. One of them is the Chicago Bears under 6.5. Now I really think that the Bears could be the worst team in the league. In fact, I found them. I took them at 10 to 1 for the fewest wins, team with the fewest wins prop. I definitely think
I didn't know that.
yeah,
Mm.
they were. I don't know what they're at now, but I took it a couple weeks ago at 10 to 1. They were 6-11 yet, 6-11 last year. I think maybe that's why the over under was set at 6.5. But they allowed a league high 58 sacks last year, and I don't expect that to get any better. They lost some pieces at offensive line, so and if Fields has any time to throw, he doesn't really. He's got a lot of the weapons at his disposal are some players rather that really haven't proved themselves other than Darnell Mooney rather. Cole Kmet is a pretty
Mm.
good tight end, but I really think that I think they're good. Looking at their schedule, I wouldn't be surprised if they only won like 3 or 4 games. So I took them like I said I took them at the fewest regular season wins at 10 to 1. Obviously, I
Yep.
took the under 6.5. I also took Bears alternate season wins under 5.5. That's at plus 120. Um, I think it's going to be pretty. I mean, everything seems easy before you.
You never tell me your good
but
bets.
but
Like,
I think it's a good play. Especially, I think the NFC North is going to be a lot stronger this year
hmm.
than usual.
Tommy
Um,
never tells me his good bets. He's like, hey, I thought I told you that. 10 to 1. I actually do like that.
yeah,
You know
it,
me. I
it
love
definitely
all.
has a shot. It definitely has a shot.
You're saying there's
So
a chance.
yeah,
Well, it only needs to hit 10% to break even.
right.
That's interesting. Okay. I do like, in terms of algorithms, a lot of stuff isn't normally priced in a normal distribution type way, in the sense that, like, have you guys, and everyone knows this, it's like this team's either going to get first or they're going to get last.
Mhm.
Like that, so I think it's kind of like this idea of like what you're saying is the Bears, and I'm with you on this. Like if they're hitting the under, they're like smashing the under.
Yeah, I think so too. I think so
So
too.
yeah, I actually like that bet. I might look into that. I don't know if I can get 10 to 1 still. We'll see. What are you looking at with Tom Brady? Is that guy going to flip flop on the field, or?
Well, this is a that's a good question because this is I have an unpopular opinion on that one. Um, I think last time I saw the Buccaneers over under season win total was 11.5, and I really like the under there. But
Under.
the thing about it is, it's my reasoning is mostly intuition. I don't really have anything to back it up. I mean, I could see them, and it's not something I'd go too big on. I think, I could see them winning 11 games. I think it could be close, or or who knows, they could win 13. I mean, I just feel like, I don't know, like you said, like Brady's kind of flip flopping with the retirement thing. At some point, right? I mean, if he's going to continue to play, I mean, the level of his play is seemingly, you would think, would have to decrease at least a little bit, just like so many great quarterbacks have. But I know it's an unpopular opinion, and I don't have anything else to back it up, other than I just have a feeling that they're. I mean, I think they'll still be pretty solid, but I like the under 11.5 there. So just based
I
on gut, like I said.
I I mean that's what I'm taking. I mean it's pizza money for me. I do think everybody's been on the Jets over. It's interesting. Lions, funny enough, there was a big I can't. There was a big uproar on social media about the Lions, but uh
You got the dad jokes too, I see.
yeah, yeah, seriously. I think that though, like, yeah, I think team totals are interesting. Another thing to kind of segue into slightly is, interestingly enough, this is just a fun fact for everyone. If you take a look at underdogs just in the first week on the road, blindly bet them for the first half, it is like 8% ROI over 20 years.
Hmm.
And it's literally just shows you that as smart as the books are, as smart as Tommy is, 'cause Tommy knows his stuff. There's mispricing just because it's same thing in baseball. If you take the underdog in the first 3 games of the year, it's again, I don't have the exact numbers. It's like 11% ROI. So there are like this is like one of my favorite betting strategies because you just come in and you're like, look, I'm a humble warrior, and I'm gonna basically arbitrage and take advantage of this mispricing. So I think it's going to be I think it is in the futures market, but it's also in the week one market as well. And this is kind of stuff we always like to. We'll do a little plug for our Discord. I mean, this is always stuff we're doing.
Mhm.
Um, Alerts, capping daily, and just kind of looking for an edge.
Mhm. Now
So
you had mentioned the Lions there, Nick, and that's actually my second futures play that I wanted to bring up in the NFL. It's another one that I really like, is the Lions over 6.5 wins. I had mentioned with the Bears, they're in a division that's tough. Obviously, with the Packers, as long as Aaron Rodgers is healthy, they're going to be competitive. The Vikings, have always they've recently been more of a middling team, but they definitely have the weapons, and I know a lot of people are high on them this year. But the Lions too, I think, are going to be pretty strong. They finished 3-13-1 last year, and I think the biggest thing here that people might kind of scoff at the over 6.5 with the Lions is, I mean, they've been the perennial basement dwellers of the NFL for, I mean, since forever, right? I mean,
they
so
kind of have, man. It's
yeah.
Detroit. I mean,
So
hey, Detroit.
right. So to suggest that they might be even mediocre is, some people might scoff at that, but I think that they were better than their record indicated last year. Five of their losses were by 4 points or less. They beat Arizona, who was a playoff team. They tied Pittsburgh, who was a playoff team, and they really hung tough in a couple games. Like in week 2 against Green Bay, the game was tied at halftime in Green Bay.
I do
They
remember
kept,
that game.
they kept the game close against the Rams in week 7 last year. So I'm not suggesting that they were or are going to be any sort of like NFL powerhouse, but I think they're definitely headed in the right direction. They got DJ Chark to the receiving core this in the offseason. Amon-Ra St. Brown down the stretch of last season looked really good. I like Hawkinson, their tight end. DeAndre Swift caught a lot of passes out of the backfield last year. So, I think, and that's like kind of bringing it full circle with the Bears there. I don't think the Bears are going to win more than one game. So there might be 5 losses, maybe 6, for the Bears' future, and With the Lions, I think they're going to turn some heads this year. I think they're going to be a lot better than people think. I could see them getting to
The
seven,
Super
maybe
Bowl.
eight
I could
wins.
see them winning. I just had a vision of them winning the Super Bowl.
I don't
My
know what
girl,
that.
yeah, my
I'll win
girlfriend made me do
forever.
this silly. I told her, I said, "Look, if I'm doing this retreat with you, I get to have football every Sunday." And she's
Yeah,
like,
good
you
deal.
know how it is. You got to block off time.
Yeah.
They don't understand sometimes, and it's like, hey, anyway. Um,
It's funny. I used to date. Talking about, since we're obviously sports lovers and have been following the games for so long. I used to date a girl a long time ago who wasn't into sports. I actually got her into baseball eventually, which was cool. We used to watch some Phillies games together. But she used to always ask, she's like, "Why do you get so involved, like so emotionally involved?"
yeah, it's like,
Yeah, so and feel free, anyone
no,
watching, to borrow this original, quacky take with Tommy here. So I asked her, I said, "Well, have you ever cried at a TV show or a movie?" And she said, "Well, yeah." I said, "Well, this is my show, and the players, they're the characters, and you're with them through their highs and lows, and and it's unscripted. It's what makes it even better. It's more than just a game. Your heart is in it. I try not to get too emotional about sports anymore because it's since the last time I had what I call sports depression was when my Packers lost the 2014-2015 NFC Championship game when they absolutely blew it against the Seahawks. That was the last time I felt really depressed after a game. But I know that some people don't understand why that is, but it's more than they say it's just a game, and they're right. It is just a game, but your heart's in it. It's like, I think I remember Brett Favre's last game with Green Bay. It was the 07-08 season, the NFC Championship game against the New York Giants. That was the year that the Giants beat the
um,
undefeated Patriots in the Super Bowl. And I remember thinking, and I was pretty certain it was going to be Favre's last year in Green Bay. He had flip flopped on retirement like 2 dozen times. Um, and I, the Packers were 13-3 that year. And I was, even though the Patriots were undefeated, I mean, I was sure that Green Bay was going to win the Super Bowl that year. I was so excited. And when they had, they got to play the Giants instead of Dallas that year, I was like, oh, like this is going to be, a sure victory then. And then all of a sudden, I remember a couple days before, I thought, I guess there's a chance they could lose. And after that, I think I had cursed it. Of course, the Giants won the game, and I did cry a little bit, two or three manly tears, of course,
of
but
course,
because it wasn't, it's not because, oh, my team lost. It's bigger than that. This was the end of an era. This was Brett Favre. This was me watching since I was in fifth grade every Sunday, and I'd go to 10:30 mass every Sunday with my family, and my mom would go to the grocery store down the street, and I remember she would make me she would get this baguette bread, and she'd make me roast beef sandwiches. I'd be all ready for the game and to watch Brett Favre, and with Favre,
Christmas.
it was always entertaining. It's a piece of you. And that's why the emotions get into it.
Yep,
That's why emotions get brought into it, and it's so awesome.
I
You
love
know,
it.
but anyhow, sorry, just a little mood.
No, I love it. You know why I love that? Because that right there is you have told me that story before, and I use that story to literally get football on every Sunday. I got a full
Oh,
I got so ties into kind of
you still there? I
it,
think I lost you.
yeah, it ties into just if you are going to be betting on this stuff, you can get emotional with it. You got to
Mhm.
make sure you have a level head if you're going to be
Right? No,
handicapping or yeah, that it's a double-edged sword.
mhm.
If you're so emotional, then the next week you're tilting, it can be dangerous. And that, but I think th- that's of course kind of implicit in it. But yeah, dude, I mean, I kind of want a roast beef sandwich right now.
Well, I mean, it certainly makes it hard to stay disciplined when you're betting with your heart instead of your head. One angle that I've tried a couple times, like especially like in NFL like playoffs when it's just one game. It's like if you like sometimes I'll bet against like the Packers in the playoffs. It's like that way if they lose, I'll win some money, and then if they win, then at least my team won. So it's an it's an angle
Been
I've
there, bro. Dude,
tried.
I've totally been there. I've like hedged against myself, and then I'm like, where do I do this subconsciously in my life?
Yeah.
Anyway, no, I love that, man, and I think
Yeah,
that's a great story. And you're sitting there eating a sandwich, and you're like, in 20 years, best quarterback, not even going to eat meat. Like, dude,
exactly, exactly.
yeah, but I'm glad we got a little bit of everything. I guess we'll kind of wrap it up. It's our first episode. We don't know. We're gonna keep these. They could be a half hour. They could be an hour. We're gonna have guests from anywhere from super sports fanatic sports bettors to literally AI algorithm stuff. We're gonna have the whole gambit, and it's gonna be on Tuesdays. And we're both on Twitter. We're both on TikTok. TikTok's fun, and it's gonna get bigger, and people just don't know it yet.
Yeah,
And
it's I'm new to it. Like I said, I've only been doing it 2 months. It's an interesting app for sure, but it's
that's the funny thing is, yeah, we kind of mentioned it. We never did social media, but yeah, and then we have a Discord. So, but yeah, it's cool if tune in. We're gonna be live, kind of going forward. And yeah, hitting all things. We're gonna have some more interactive stuff as well. So it was awesome.
yeah. Thanks so
And
much everyone for watching, and we are on Twitter too at the Nick of Tom. That is the name of our podcast. So if you could follow us on Twitter, we'll have all of the episodes loaded up to the Twitter profile. And thanks so much for joining. We'll see you next
and
week.
we have a Patreon. We do have a Patreon, and it's there as well. But everything is, it's gonna be, yeah, it's free. It will be on both of them. And if you feel like throwing a little $9 a month donation, it will go towards a coffee and a roast beef sandwich.
There you go. Thanks so much for joining us, everyone. We look forward to seeing you again next week, and we'll see you out there. Good luck with all your bets, and we'll see you next time.